Ladies and gentlemen, this special episode of The Fighter and the Kid is brought to you by Onnit. As usual, if you are a listener of this show, we are presented to you by Onnit. That's Onnit, ONNIT.com/fighter for 10% off for the best supplements on planet Earth. Joe Rogan says so. Aubrey Marcus, Brody Miller, Big Brown, The Kid. All of us think this stuff is pretty good. Their new hemp force protein is the best in the world. And if you want 10% off, go to onnit.com/fighter for 10% off right now. Right before you listen to the glorious voices of Carlos, Condit, and Robbie Lawler, you can save some money at onnit.com/fighter 10% off. Without further ado, we have very special guests today, Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler, two of my favorite guys in the UFC. They're my favorite because these guys are straight old school fighters. I mean, you're talking about guys who they don't talk smack. They just go in there and they do it. These are your classic old school fighters. And these are fighters that 10, 20, 30 years from now, you could show video to your kids and be like, yeah, this is who I want you to be. These are two stand-up guys, two of my favorite guys in the UFC, and I cannot wait for their fight January 2nd. So if you're looking for me to break down Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler, this is not the podcast for you. I want to get to know these guys, get to know where exactly they started from and what brought them to this point now. You got a world champion and a former world champion sitting in the Fire and the Kid studio right now. So please enjoy this one. Carlos Condit and the champ in the house, Robbie Lawler. Enjoy. One heck of a special episode today of The Fighter and the Kid. Myself, the champ is in the house, Robbie Lawler, and his next opponent, the man, the myth, Carlos Condit. Fellas, you've had a long day. A long day. I know this. I know how it goes. They told me you've been going since 6 a.m., so I'll try not to make it too hard on you guys. Hopefully you know the answers to the test. Hopefully I don't mix it up too much for you guys, but I appreciate you guys coming on. And you know, I'm sure today as you go through kind of the ringers of all the interviews, you guys are getting all these questions about fighting and stuff like that. I don't. It's not that I don't care about that, but I'm more interested in. I find a lot of similarities in the two of you guys. A lot of similarities when you look at the career of both of you guys. I find a lot of similarities, and I'd like to kind of start with that on how you guys got to where you're at now, because a lot of the listeners go, oh, well, Carlos is blessed with crazy athleticism and Robbie Lawler is blessed with knockout power, and that's how they got here. But if you look at where you guys started from, it's not that easy, man. You can't just chalk it up to that. So we'll start with the champ. He is the champ for right now, Carlos, if you don't mind. We'll start with you, Robbie. Kind of what not made you a fighter, but how did you get down this path of fighting? Because especially when you were coming up, all of us were kind of similar ages. It wasn't a career choice really where it's like, oh, yeah, go be a fighter, go get famous and make millions of dollars. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I bothered my dad for the longest time and wanted to get into martial arts, so he put me in Taekwondo, started that, did that as long as I could. Then I moved to Iowa, and I always enjoyed fighting. I always enjoyed competing sports, but one-on-one, something great about that, not having to rely on others. And then moved to Iowa, always enjoyed boxing, but then I started to wrestle, which is a fight. I thought of it as a battle between two guys, and just continued with martial arts and wrestling. And when I was a sophomore in high school, Pat Miletich brought a whole bunch of fighters up to the wrestling room to work out with us. And I'm like, hold on a second. You're telling me this is wrestling and kicking and punching all rolled into one? Where can I sign up? So by the time I was a junior in high school, I knew as soon as I graduated, that's what I was going to do. And I just went full time in 2000.
That's amazing. Carlos? Because you don't, you know, a lot of people think to be a fighter, you know, fighters they come from poverty and stuff like that. And I always say this: my parents loved the shit out of me. Like, I don't have a sad story for you guys. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? I just enjoy the competition. I enjoyed competing against guys. So, you know, when I look at your story, it's a little different too. Because you guys both started when you're young. Because everyone goes, man, these athletes now, they're getting started when they're young. It's like, whoa, pump your brakes. we got two guys here because everyone refers to Rory McDonald usually because start at like 12 or something like that in mixed martial arts. But we got two guys here who did start, from the get-go. So how did you get started kind of down this road?
Well, initially I was interested in martial arts through like the early 90s, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, Bloodsport and Lionheart and that sort of thing.
I hear you.
And then Ninja Turtles, I was all about that. And so I started wrestling when I was 9. I did some different sports. I didn't really dig it. I'm glad I did them, but I didn't like this. I didn't like swim team. I didn't like soccer. I like sports where you could put your hands on somebody. And started wrestling when I was 9. And actually, that year I saw the first UFC. I saw Hoist Gracie out there choking guys out with his gi, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what is this? Is real? This is like Bloodsport, but it's the real deal." And ever since then, I was, I watched as much MMA or what UFC, it wasn't even called MMA back then, as much UFC as I could get my hands on. We'd go to the Blockbuster Video or whatever and go to the special interest section and get, these old tournament videos of like, UFC 12, UFC, 15, whatever, these really obscure
Whatever
things.
You get, yeah.
It was underground back then, and watched it. I would stay up all night because I had to know who was going to win the damn tournament because, there was no internet back then. You didn't know. Yeah. And when I was in high school, sophomore in high school, I got in the phone book and I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I wrestle right now. I see wrestlers do well. So, I'll see what there is to see. I look it up. I see Jackson's ground fighting in the phone book, in the white pages, and I gave him a call. And my dad took me down, saw him, doing arm bars, doing submissions, doing the stuff that I was seeing in the videos.
How old are you at this time when you walked into Jackson's?
15.
Dang.
Yeah, and I was like, Dad, this is it. This is what I want to do. I wasn't even driving at the time, so I had to get a ride from my dad every time I went to practice. So, I loved it. Started doing some amateur stuff. Started doing Grappler's Quest and that sort of thing. And
Was there a time, and this is for both of you, was there a time maybe during training or during a fight where you're like, man, I can do this. I can make a living doing this? Because there's a lot of guys that attempt it, right? The gyms, Milicic, Greg Jackson's, we see a ton of guys in and out the doors. Was there a time where you're like, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I could maybe potentially be the best in the world.
Yeah, I was training with the best in the world at the time. One of the best camps, a lot of champions. There wasn't a lot of money to be made, but you could make a living and do what you love to do. So I was like, I can hang with these guys at this point. I'm young, so let's keep doing this and try to learn as much as possible. But yeah, I just thought I'm all in.
And you had some killers because you had Tim Sylvia was there, Matt Hughes. Who else you have up there?
Jens Pulver. Pat was tough until the end.
Hell yeah,
he's still tough. He's got a great jab, and he's one of the guys who put everything together. Jeremy Horn. There's countless guys. If guys stayed around for more than a month, you were tough because those practices were hard. It was like, all right, if you make it through a week, then you're going to come back. But if you don't, a lot of guys would show up and not make it through the day. Like, all right, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
And same thing at Jackson's. I mean, through those doors, you have some of the greatest athletes of all time. I mean, I remember going down to Jackson's and just, it's not that I learned a ton of techniques. I just learned that I was tough enough where I could make it, because I remember walking in there and was sparring so much and just being like, dang, man, these guys are really good.
I think that's part of it. Just be knowing that you can hang with, some of the best in the world. And when I was young, it was, these guys were very good. They could have been competing on the bigger stage, but at that time there wasn't like a clear path of how do you get into the UFC like there is now. Yep. It was like, we're kind of doing these regional shows, and you really need the connections to move up to the bigger shows. And, when I was 15, 16 years old, I was sparring with guys in their mid 20s, and I was holding my own. not physically. I was still scrawny. I wasn't strong. Sure. I had to use my technique, and I was doing well. So from there, I just kind of, I didn't have much else going on either. I wasn't much of an academic. I wasn't going to school much.
No modeling career? Calvin Klein wasn't knocking on the door?
No. I was, this was it. I was, I had all my eggs in the fighting basket.
I think you have to, man, especially this day and age. The two camps you guys come from, and we see kind of a transition now in MMA, because I remember the first guy for me who kind of changed the way I viewed getting ready for a fight was George St. Pierre. I went to stay with George at TriStar in Montreal, and I saw how he kind of did things different. He wasn't sparring as much. He was bringing more of a professional approach that I saw from football, and he was the first guy I saw doing it. Now, I know back in the day, especially with Pat and especially at Jackson's, you're beating each other up bad. Now we see guys like Matt Mitrione, Tim Kennedy's talked about it, that Rodriguez kid who's just a monster. They don't really spar. They barely spar. And I've even read something on you, Robbie, where you took some time off from sparring because a lot of guys are wasting their kind of fights inside the gym in these gym wars. Yeah. So how for me, and I think a lot of listeners, how did you guys adapt to that? Because it's an ego thing, I think, really. And especially coming from Pat to at American Top Team, it's tough, man.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I think you need that to a certain extent, because you don't want someone going through this path and spend 5 years in the game and then get into a fight and be like, man, I just wasted 5 years and realize I don't like to be hit or I don't enjoy this at all. So I think if you come in right away and you're put to the fire, you can decide right away if this is for you and decide your path. But yeah, I took like 6 years off from sparring, but that wasn't. At the time, I was like, I know how to fight. I'll just watch all these guys. I'll break down it and learn mentally how to stay sharp. And it worked pretty well for a while. But
this is when you were in Strikeforce?
This was when I was in Strikeforce, and even before that, I was in Elite XC and Icon. I wasn't sparring at all. When I fought in Pride, I actually got hit. I had vertigo, and just was like, all right, I don't need to spar for a little bit.
Especially when you have a certain amount of fights, it's like, I don't need to show how tough I am. I'd rather save it. So this was your idea not to spar? Because that's my idea. You're really the first one I heard doing that. When someone told me, I'm like, really? Robbie's doing that?
Yeah, they would all talk trash. I'd be on the sideline just shadow boxing with weights and just watching and like jabbering, just goofing off, but working. But I was like, I don't need to go out there.
Who's laughing now, son?
Yeah.
As they're drooling and out of the UFC?
Yeah, I already know I'm tough.
Yeah.
Well, I think as fighters, and especially at this level, we love to fight. This is what we like to do. And, especially with a lot of young guys, it's, I get to go in and I get to fight every day. I don't have to wait till my fight. I'm going to go, and when you spar, you see these guys, and they are fighting. It's like, a thoroughbred racehorse wants to run. True. But his coach isn't going to let him. That's the way they train horses. They kind of pull the reins back. They don't let them go all out all the time because you're going to get injuries. They're going to blow themselves out. They're not going to have the longevity of their career. Same with fighters. If the more wars you have in the gym, I feel like the shorter the career and the more potential there is for injury, for you pulling out of fights. It is important. I agree with Robbie, for somebody to get in there when you're first starting out. Figure out, hey, do I like to fight? Do I like to get hit? Let's rough it up. But after a certain point, hard sparring where you're trying to fuck each other up.
Yeah, getting after it, man.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that's necessarily beneficial.
You don't learn a lot from it. You know what I'm saying? When you're trying to kill the guy, you don't learn a lot from it. Yeah. Like you're not improving your game. You're using the tools you have and best versus best. You know what I'm saying?
You learn a lot from a guy that you trust, that you're like, all right, he's gonna be light, and we're gonna move, and we're gonna fill, and we're gonna work on things. And when you have guys like that, your style and your skills get a lot better, a lot faster.
I think the thing too that got me excited that you guys were coming on. We don't have a lot of fighters on the show. Granted, people think, oh, I was in the UFC, we have a ton of fighters. I really don't have a ton of fighters on the show because a lot of the fighters, it's tough for them to get on the mic and share their experience, right? It's tough for them to get outside their comfort zone and talk about something besides fighting. But with you two, when I look at your career and I see how long you've been doing it, it's inspiring, man, because, I was in the UFC 7-something odd years, and I had ups and downs, especially lately, man, as far as motivation. What? I mean, they could offer me anyone. I'm like, I'm good, man. I don't know what it is right now. It's just the fire's not there. So for you guys, how in the hell do you keep going? Especially both of you. I mean, injuries with Carlos here, and then with you, man, you've had your ups and downs, you know?
It all just came down to I love competing. I love working out. I love the aspects that most people don't like. I like the regimen. I like to push myself. So if I'm like, I have a job and it's fighting, but I also love it. So it's just like going in there and having a good time every day. So, and I have fire because I'm still learning. So I'm still getting better, still finely tuning stuff, still adding stuff to my game, and my body feels great. So as long as my mind is there and my body's there too, then I'll keep fighting. But if I don't have both of them, I can't do it anymore.
Well, especially right now being the champ, I'm sure motivation isn't an issue for you.
No.
But before this, you know what I'm saying? Like when you first fought Josh Koscheck, I'm sure there was a point where it's like, all right, man, you know, I lose this one, who knows, you know?
Yeah, I didn't think that because I was like, all right, my time to shine. I get to go up against the big boys and everyone I've been watching for all these years.
Yeah,
they
man.
haven't been paying attention to me, but I've been paying attention to all of them, and I can't wait to go out there and show the world.
Yeah, that's why you're champ. And then with you, Carlos, I mean, you've had your ups and downs, man. WC champ, intern champ in the UFC, and I know that bothers you a little bit, right? But I think if you would have said after WC or even after that George St. Pierre fight, if you're like, I'm good, people are like, yeah, these are two of the greatest welterweights of all time. You're good. So what else is left to do? So for you, after all this time, man, how to every day, and it baffles me. It really does. Because even when I was playing football in college, everything's good. There were some days where I'd be like, dang, man, I don't know. So to see you guys do this is crazy to me.
Well, and there's some of that. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm 100% motivated every single day. Now, there is ups and downs, especially in training camp when you know you're pouring your emotions in and you know giving every drop of your energy into training, giving it all. You know, sometimes you do get drained. I get into you know kind of maybe a negative headspace, but you know. I just try to keep things in perspective. I do what I love for a living. I get to you know train and fight with the best guys in the world. You know, literally at one of the best camps you know that's ever been. And you know, I make a good living doing it. I'm able to spend a lot of time with my family doing this. I get to travel the world and have adventures and you know beat people up.
Yeah, that's the best.
Getting in the cage and you know and fighting somebody is when I feel alive. And you know this is literally a dream come. I wanted to do something with martial arts as a kid, and now I am doing that at the highest levels.
And there was no plan B for either of you. Did you ever think of anything else? Either of you?
I always knew I was going to be an athlete. It was funny, like always growing up, I'd be like, man, I want to play in the NFL. I want to do this. And like, it's funny, like people would always be like, well, don't you need a plan B? Well, you know what the percentages of someone who does that is. You're not going to be able to do that. But I never believed in that stuff. I always believed in myself. So there was no plan B.
Love it.
Yeah, I was always, you know, I think throughout my MMA career is about beating the odds. You know, I fought a bunch of guys who maybe, you know, 9 times out of 10 they beat me, but I'm that guy that you know comes in and I make it happen when it's time, and it's kind of how it's been. You know, just it's a long shot. This career is a long shot.
Yeah, you guys are the 1%ers of the world. I think what's interesting to me, and I've said this before on the show, is you can tell a lot by the way the guy fights from his personality. Both you guys are very mild-mannered. You guys are both pros. And again, I go back to George St. Pierre, where you can tell from his fighting style where he's a very cerebral guy, right? Everything's calculated. He's very cautious. He doesn't want to get hit. Everything's very calculated. George is the type of guy where if he was into Steve Jobs, he's reading every Steve Jobs book there is. He's getting everything. So he becomes obsessed with it. And with you guys, I don't think there's any UFC fan in the world who, if Robbie's fighting, whether it's fighting each other or whatever, or Carlos fights, no one's saying, man, it could be boring. It could be against anyone. It could be a wrestler, jiu-jitsu guy. There's something with both you guys where I don't know if you have a game plan. I don't know if you guys stick to game plans or what, but you're both going for the kill. And I think that comes from whether it's your upbringing or something along the way, especially at this high of a level. Can you explain how you don't let that affect you? Because there's a lot of guys, again, with George St. Pierre, once he got to a certain level, we saw him take the risk away. Like Rush, nah, man, your nickname's not Rush anymore. We can't call you Rush anymore. There's no Rush. You know what I'm saying? Like once you get all that pressure, you're the champ now. You're fighting for the title. Some guys change the way they fight. You know, or they come off a loss. Maybe it's the Johnny Hendricks. You know, maybe it's the Woodley fight for you, although your leg fell off, but we'll figure that out. But for certain guys, they change their fighting style when the pressure's on. And there's never been more pressure on a UFC fighter than now. With the Fox deal, this Reebok thing, all eyeballs are on you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm not trying to go above and beyond. I'm just going out there and doing things the way I like to do it. I like to get in people's faces. I like to beat them up. If I'm playing football, I want to score touchdowns. I want to make the sacks. I want to make the big hits. That's how I do things. I want to be the star, and I've always wanted to knock people out, and I think and finish them. So it's just who I am as a person and as a competitor. I want to do things spectacularly, and I want to go out there and put on a show, and I'm a fighter.
Carlos?
I feel like honestly, I feel like the safest way to fight is to go out there and and finish the guy. That's when it's safe in the octagon, when he stops moving. Mm-hmm. When it's done, when the ref's pulling you off, then you're safe. Yeah. Other than that, anything could happen. So that's how I fight. I'm like, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna hit you, I'm gonna beat you until you stop moving, so that I can go home. So that this could be over with.
I think what's funny is Dana White should have a list where it just says for sure's. And it should have Robbie Lawler and Carlos Condit and maybe 5 other guys where we know if you're on the car, it's for sure going to be entertaining. You know what I'm saying? There's for sure going to be a finish, or the fans are going to for sure love it. You know what I'm saying?
I think,
and there's few guys you can say that.
In his head, I think
he knows what's up. You know what I'm saying? And what else is interesting is as the UFC evolves, we see guys pulling off new moves, training different, stuff like that. But now there's a different component to it as the UFC gets bigger. And it's this social media side, or this kind of almost WWE side. Like you guys got Conor McGregor, right? Everyone wants to be like Conor McGregor. We see Rothwell trying it now. We see certain guys coming. You guys don't. Your fighting speaks for itself, and it's rare. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of guys they're getting out of their comfort zone, or they're trying to market themselves. But with you, I don't need a pitch. I don't need Carlos talking stuff to Robbie. I don't need Robbie saying how he's going to knock out. I don't need a pitch here, which is rare. When you think about the fights and you think about the other main events, we need a countdown. We need something to get it going. And with you two, it's a rare exception, man. It really is.
Yeah. Well, when they ring the bell and they close the cage and ring the bell, we go. And yeah.
We're allowed to be us because we're fighters.
You're professionals.
We're like, all right, you're going to like the way we do things. Mm-hmm. And so we don't have to go outside of ourselves to create some sort of character. We just are who we are, and people enjoy it.
Yeah, it seems to work. It definitely seems to work. I think it's simple. It's just it's a weird time, man. It's a weird time because you see the attention Conor McGregor's getting. And granted, he's backing it up, but people are trying to follow suit. Mm-hmm. And I think it's refreshing. I'm sure a lot of fans would back me up on this. For you guys, it's your fighting speaks for itself.
I think people should be themselves. I think if that's you, cool. Yeah. And if you can talk a big game and you back it up and you're a great martial artist, great. Mm-hmm. I don't think that you should try to do anything that you're. I don't think you should try to be somebody else though.
Yeah, I think it's great what Conor's doing, being him and doing his thing.
Sure.
But you know what it does is it kind of creates me. People are like, oh, Conor's this guy, but look at this guy over here. He's something different. So it's really showcasing all the other fighters too. With him putting on the show he does, it kind of like makes me look like whoever I am. It's like, all right, this guy's simple. I like that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's it's your cup of tea. It depends what you like. Like a lot of people love that Conor stuff. Yeah. As soon as he stops winning, which the guy might go undefeated, who knows? But as soon as that stops, that's not cute anymore. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you guys, with you guys keep doing what you're doing, it seems to work.
Yeah, not everybody's going to gravitate towards that kind of, towards that type of persona, that type of personality. So. But it's been good for the sport.
It's been great for the sport. The new eyeballs he brings, that whole international scene, all that stuff, man. It's great. with a guy like Conor, and I think it comes with, granted his trash talk's great, but he has the skills, right? And we see kind of something different in the octagon. And with you guys being old school veterans, man, let's be real. You guys are two of the old school cats, right? Especially in the 170-pound division. It is stacked, man. Like, I'm taking some time off. So let's say I come back in a year and a half. It's a completely different game. George St. Pierre, he's talked about getting back in the octagon. This isn't the same game as when you fought him. It's you guys are different fighters, and he would have to catch up. Do you feel like because you guys are with these mega camps, you stay on, you know what I'm saying, you're keeping up with this? Because these young guys, you got a guy Rodriguez, he's doing these flying kicks, flying to knee bars. I watch that stuff, I'm like, dang, man, I'm old. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm old. Like, I saw two guys I came up with fighting one of the past pay-per-views, and I was like, that's how I fight, man. We look like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to just trying to evolve, but don't try to reinvent yourself. Just add little wrinkles to your game, and don't try to get outside yourself and spread yourself thin. You gotta stick to your strengths and add to those.
Mm-hmm.
Same, Carlos.
Yeah, well, one of the advantages I think that we have, where I train, is we have people coming from all over the world. So we have guys from all different backgrounds, all different martial arts disciplines.
Remember, there's always Russians in there.
There's a bunch of Russians.
Always
in there.
Russians.
Yeah, there's a bunch of new Russian guys, new ones all the time too.
Yeah,
it's like,
just
I can't pronounce your name.
Yeah,
but,
cool, man.
I know you're a tough dude.
Yeah.
And what's cool is Greg has he's not trying to change anybody. And what he's trying to do is add to everybody's game. So in that spirit and that attitude, we're taking what works from these different styles and trying to incorporate them. If they work, cool.
Sure.
If not, put them aside. Maybe they'll work at some point.
I think what makes Greg Jackson great is I kind of compare Greg to a major league manager, or an NBA coach like a Phil Jackson, because he's dealing with all these egos. Mm-hmm. Greg's not going to show you a ton of techniques on stand-up or anything like that on the ground. He obviously knows what he's doing, but he's great at managing these egos. You look at the superstars in Greg Jackson's, even when I was there, he was the best at making sure everyone kind of felt like they were getting the love from Greg Jackson. That's what makes Greg great. But this is what's interesting to me, and both you guys come from mega camps, Jackson's and ATT. We see so many mega camps, the camps I've been in Grudge, all these camps. They tend to fall apart because there's so many egos involved. Because you guys have how many superstars at ATT? You have how many superstars at Jackson's? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's hard to shine the light for everyone, especially, world champion. You got a huge fight, and you have all these other guys in the camp. Mm-hmm. So dealing with all that's such a beast, man. And I don't think anyone's figured it out to a science yet. I just
Definitely not, because a lot of the up-and-comers, they think they do deserve a lot, and they need a lot of attention, and they might not be getting it because they're not quite on the big stage yet. So, yeah, it's definitely hard, and it's hard on the coaches to try to make time for everyone because they have to live their lives, and there's only so much time in the day.
Yeah, man, it's tough.
It can be somewhat of a revolving door at Jackson's. We had Frank Mir come through for a while, and he's not with us anymore.
Overeem, right?
Overeem is there now.
He's still there?
Yeah, he's still there. Travis Brown, and there's been some other guys. I think each camp has its own kind of style as far as how they run things, and not everything's gonna fit each individual fighter. I think you got to find a camp that works for you. Jackson's kind of self-paced. Like they have their kind of a little bit of a structure, but you're kind of doing your own thing. And if you're good with that, if you can be like, okay, I'm going to show up for this, and this, that's great. If you're self-motivated. If not, I think people can have an issue with not having structure, not having somebody tell them what to do.
I think a lot of times, especially fighters, you have to be the captain of your team. Like, you're going to have coaches, but you, in general, have to be the captain of your team.
You're
there's
your
a
boss.
team. Yeah, you're your boss, and you're going to spar with world-class guys. That's great. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, man. It really is. These guys
someone to hold your
no,
hand
you really don't.
every
You're not
step
going to
of the
make
way.
it. Yeah, you're not going to make it.
You're not going to make it, for sure.
What's the update on your boy John? You got any news on him? What's going on with that monster?
He's been around. He's been around the gym.
Yeah, I see on Instagram he's just swole up right now. Yeah. He's just jacked, like working out.
Yeah, I guess he's at a powerlifting gym right now. But
he's just powerlifting, getting huge and eating.
Yeah, he's been around though.
Interesting, man. Well, I know our fans have a ton of questions. You got some fan questions for us, Ev?
Yep, I got a bunch.
Might be some of the most questions we've ever got. People are crunk. You guys were coming in.
Pull some of these up. All right. First one. The New Jersey AC will be experimenting with judges being in soundproof booths away from the MMA event to work with the judges at the match. Do you think this will work?
So what they're doing, they're having, so there'll still be 3 judges at the event, and then there's going to be a separate group of judges in a closed area?
Yeah, in a soundproof booth. Just watching just the fight on TV.
With no crowd?
With no crowd, no noise, no commentary, just a straight fight.
So it's like a test study?
Yeah.
I think they need to do something with the judging. I don't know if that's going to change it, but there's definitely room for improvement, and maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction. You got to do something, because sometimes the crowd can sway it, or if you're in a hometown, something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just the more you force like the judges to be around the sport and develop and learn the techniques, I think they'll evolve a little bit more. But I don't think just showing up once a month for a show.
No, that's not going to work. I mean, I bet you wish you had this new judging when you fought Hendricks the first time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I always think, all right, I'm going to knock this guy out, so I'm not going to rely on the judges anyways. So that's always my game plan. So.
I think that if a crowd is heavily in favor of one guy and everything he does is like, wow, even if he doesn't land like a hard punch, I think that can sway the judges. And then when you hear crickets when his opponent, lands something or does something cool, like
they're human, man.
Yeah.
They get it. Let me jump in on this one. With this new drug testing, which I think is a huge step for the sport. You got fans of it. Prom with the IV testing, as far as you can't use IVs anymore. Neither of you guys are like, I mean, you're not no one gets huge out of shape, so you're not too crazy about the IVs,
I think
right?
it's awesome for the sport. They need to figure out the IV thing.
It's tough, man.
It's I don't think guys are using the IVs to mask anything.
No.
They're actually just trying to mask their dehydration.
I agree. That's all they're doing. I think the IV thing is the only thing with the testing I don't agree with, because you're getting guys who cut all this weight and the brain's not rehydrating. That's the biggest issue. So then we're not getting great performances if they're just downing freaking Gatorade coconut water.
And you're putting these guys at risk. You know, when that fluid in between your brain and your skull is diminished, you have a greater risk for knockout and concussion. I'm an opponent of the IV ban, but in all, I think it's a good thing with the advanced testing.
Yeah, I think they could do something along the lines of, all right, you guys are in charge of the IVs. Test me before and after the IV so you can see what the levels are.
Just let me rehydrate.
So, like, nothing's changed and nothing seems weird.
Are either one of you going to reach out to your boy Johnny Hendricks and help him cut weight? Either one of you.
He's
a grown-ass man. He should
Isn't
be
it
able
frustrating,
to figure out his own thing.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. What else you got, Ev?
All right, next one. This one is for you, Robbie. What was it like in the hospital with Rory after the fight? Could you tell during the fight it was going to be legendary?
No, I was just going out there and battling, just trying to stay sharp and trying to get the job done. But really, the hospital is never something you want to go to after a fight. So you're like, man, I want to go eat something. I wish I was like at the press conference. I wish I was in my room. But it was, I saw a lot of fighters there getting stitched up and getting their heads checked. And
what did you and Roy talk about?
I just basically let him know I had a lot of respect for the way he went out there and performed, and made sure his camp knew that I had a respect for the way they got him ready for that fight. Without him, I wouldn't have put on a great performance.
Your lip looks fine.
Yeah, they did a good job. Made me look.
Do you two feel pressure to kind of, I don't want to say recreate that, but people are expecting that classic. You know what I'm saying? But as far me being a fighter, I'd rather get a first round knockout.
Yeah,
and get
for
the hell
sure.
out.
No one wants.
No one
fight
wants
of
that
the
back and forth
night.
war. Like the fans love it. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it takes a toll on the fighter.
Fight of the night is a little overrated. Maybe they should up the money for
100%,
that.
100%. Because how are you gonna pay me the same if I knock the guy in 30 seconds, or I go 25 minutes with Carlos Condit and we have a war? You gonna give me the same amount of money?
Right.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Double it, Dana. Let's
Yeah.
do it, my man.
There's no pressure to like reenact that or put on a performance
can't,
like
man.
that. I'm just gonna go out there and do me and not try to get extended.
For sure. What else you got, Ev?
All right, this is for both Robbie and Carlos. Who were your favorite fighters before you made it to the UFC?
One of my all-time favorites was Marco Hua. I don't know if you guys remember that
Shogun?
guy back in the day. No,
King of the Streets.
The King of the Street. Is that's who we're talking about, right? Yeah. I always get
Am I
those two
way
mixed-
off? Shane?
No,
No,
we're
not Shogun. Ninja.
No.
Is that
no,
Ninja?
No,
No, Marco Huas was
like original, like UFC 5, UFC 6.
Really?
It was UFC
Yeah.
5, I think.
Yeah, like he was one of these guys. He was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, but he was also a striker. He was one of these guys who, when we talk about mixed martial arts today, like he's a striker, he's a grappler, he's got all this.
Yeah.
But back in the day, a lot of times, like, you had the guy with the one glove, and once you put him on his back, he's
Screwed.
done. Or you had the grappler. If you punched him in the face, he was probably, he wasn't going to win. He was one of the first kind of mixed martial arts, practitioners.
That makes sense. Robbie?
Chuck Liddell. I mean, a lot of my training partners too. I looked up to him. I was a lot
You
younger
have to,
than
man.
him, but like Matt Hughes, Jens Pulver, like Pat and those guys. I mean, I looked up to those guys, but like Chuck Liddell, the way he went out there and just kind of sprawled and punched people
Brawled.
in the
Hell
face.
yeah. No, I don't think people realize you were there during his heyday. Tim Sylvia, man. Could there have been a bigger beast? Was he 6'8"?
Yeah,
Couldn't take him down.
Yeah, he
Crazy
was-
boxing. People don't forget that guy was a monster.
Yeah, and at the time he was in great shape
Yeah,
because
man.
he trained with all 170 pounders. So like, hey, jump in and swim, buddy. Like this is what we're doing today. We're not training like heavyweights. We're training like 170 pounders.
Yeah,
so
man.
he was trim and ready to go.
Riding bikes and shit all the time. I remember like, God, Lord. What else you got, Ev?
You guys have both worn some UFC gold at one point or another. What is the coolest and weirdest perk you both have got from it?
I got to fly business class to Japan one time. That was pretty sweet, and go have sushi dinner with some cute chicks from TV out there.
Yeah, I mean, we fly in first class. I mean, it's just something I've done for a long time. It's not like it's an awesome accomplishment, but
Just
I've
another day
been
to-
around it so much, like Matt Hughes, Jen.
You expect it.
And it's like I'm still the same guy I was before.
For sure.
So it's like,
So your life didn't change at all when you got the
I
belt.
mean, it changed a little bit, but like I didn't change.
Yeah. Me have an assistant now, but it's whatever.
I wish I had an assistant.
I didn't change. Organic milkshake, please, and your assistant brings it. What else you got, Ev?
All right, you guys are both common opponents of Nick Diaz. What makes him such a tough fight, and thoughts on his 5-year ban?
Ooh.
Yeah, his 5-year ban is ridiculous. I mean, I wish as soon as he had that hearing, they just reinstated him. He's just a guy who gets in your face and throws a lot of punches, and he's long, and he's a fighter. When push comes to shove, he's gonna go out there and try to beat somebody up.
Yeah, I disagree with his suspension. I think it's bullshit. As far as what makes him a tough fighter, he's resilient. I mean, you can't knock the dude out. And he's he likes to try to get in your head. He wants to sit there and get you pissed off, so you want to stand right in front of him and have a face punching competition.
He wants to fight you again, correct, Carlos? I think I saw him.
I don't know.
Doesn't he wants a rematch with you, I think.
Cool. I'd be into it.
I'd be into it. Is that it, Ev?
We'll do one more. Do you guys have any plans for what you guys want to do after you retire? After you guys wrap it up?
I'm going to be excited to spend more time with my family, but I'll just coach, give back to the sport that's given so much to me, and just be a dad and a husband.
I got a lot of different interests, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to pursue as far as like a second career. Definitely continue to coach and mentor young guys. I have a passion for food and nutrition, and that's also part of the sport. Maybe go down a path like that. Helping educate people on eating and making weight.
You've done some good stuff too as far as entertainment goes. I remember I was at ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut, and they were talking about fighters, and you get to know them because you're on campus, and I was one of the co-hosts for SportsCenter there, and she goes, "Oh, you know who's my favorite, but he scares me now after I saw him fight, is Carlos Condit." I was like, "Yeah, he's a great guy." Yeah, and she's like, "But when he fought, I'm terrified now." Yeah, I think it's funny too is before we walked in here, someone goes, "You're gonna have both of them on?" Yeah, why? Like, they're not gonna fight each other? Like, why would they fight each other? They get paid a lot of money to fight on January 2nd. Why would they fight each other? That's like asking to have two football players, and are they going to tackle each other in the studio? I don't think so. I hope not.
It's like Burt Watson says, it hurts for nothing.
Yeah, he's right. Right?
Sucks to fight for free.
It sucks, and it hurts just the same.
I'm paraphrasing. He says a lot cooler.
Yeah, he says it way cooler. I wish we could do it, but shout out to Burt Watson. Well, fellas, I know you've had a long day. I really appreciate you guys coming on and not going crazy and beating each other up, as a lot of people would think.
No problem.
We'll get our chance.
January 2nd.
January 2nd. Appreciate you guys, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us.